Hello everybody, welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary, and welcome to Irish Whiskey Month. We're starting off with a really affordable Irish whiskey called McConnell's. Now, McConnell's is one of these whiskeys that is kind of cropping up across Ireland right now, where a lot of these old brands are being revived. Now, it's no, new news that Ireland is trying to have a whiskey revival, and they're doing a pretty good job. They have a ton of sales. Their sales numbers are huge. In fact, it's one of the quickest growing industries across all of whiskey. So it makes sense that a lot of these kind of no-name or like really old name distilleries are coming back or being revived. We see this with bourbon as well, and in the case of McConnell's and like last week's Rowan Co., this is another one. Now, this hasn't been a thing since 1930, but in 2020, somebody chose to revive it. So let's see if it's just a cash grab or something worth having. McConnell's Irish Whiskey was founded in 1776 by both James and John McConnell in Belfast. And I started thinking about this. In 1776 is almost 250 years ago, which is kind of crazy if you really stop to think about it. That's a very long time ago. But they ran and they were a very successful company for about 150 years when trade with Britain and Scotch prices, kind of lowering and being more readily available, as well as Prohibition kind of drove this one into the ground, and they had to shut their doors in 1930. Only a few years ago in 2020, Konica Brands, which is an American spirits company, ended up reviving this by blending and sourcing from the Great Northern Distillery. So this is sourced, and that's fine, but the intent is to bring the distillation back to Belfast and actually put it into an old prison called the Crumlin Road Jail, I believe it's pronounced Gaol, which is kind of funny. I actually asked Alexa to do it for me, and she pronounced it as jail. I was like, totally fine. Anyway, this is all part of that greater Irish whiskey revival, and so be it. Let's see if it's any good. Now, this is a blended Irish whiskey made with a mix of 70% grain whiskey and 30% malt whiskey. It's aged for a minimum of 5 years in first fill bourbon casks, which add a vanilla sweetness and depth. It's bottled at 42% ABV, or 84 proof, and slightly higher than the usual 40% of most Irish whiskeys. It's not chill filtered, maybe. It was hard to find any sort of specification, so kind of have to assume it might be, but no telling either way. And the price is only about $35 to $40, so it's very affordable. Let's go into the nosing and the tasting. All right. I absolutely love the nose on this. It's not an Irish whiskey in what you would normally think. Like, when I think of just a general Irish whiskey, actually my mind usually goes to something like Redbreast or maybe even Jameson. What this actually reminds me of more is like a Speyside Scotch. This has a very light, crisp apple kind of smell to it, along with honey and a little bit of vanilla, but overall it's just very crisp. Think Orchard House, actually. Very similar concept. The alcohol doesn't really come across at all. It doesn't smell young. Maybe like a little bit, but barely. The main thing you're getting here is just green apple, and it's actually a wonderful nose. It's the kind of thing that I kind of wish they would make a candle that smelled like this, so I could have that here in the whiskey room and just be like, it smells delicious in here. So maybe I'll just get a green apple candle. Let's go ahead and have a taste. Cheers. Okay, so the flavor here is, it's good. It's something like, every time that I taste something in this price range, I have to remind myself that I'm not tasting a $200 scotch. I'm very much spoiled for choice here, and it shows sometimes. So let's evaluate this for what it is. What you get immediately is not an overwhelming fruity flavor. You kind of get this almost, boring is not the right word, but it's nothing in particular. It's just kind of a soft Irish whiskey. Like, it has a little bit of a metallic taste, just a tad. It doesn't taste too much like alcohol. It doesn't taste too little like alcohol. It doesn't have a ton of body, but it also doesn't taste like water. Like, it's very much in the middle. I always think of Irish whiskey as almost like chicken, and I'm going somewhere with it. So, you know how like chicken takes on, it's kind of like nothing, but then you can make it taste delicious by adding all kinds of weird sauces or herbs or whatever else you want to do to it. Like, it takes on flavor really well. I feel like Irish whiskey is the same way. Like, by default, an Irish whiskey, because of the extra distillation, you remove a lot of the character, and you're kind of left with just this like middle tier, kind of just easy to drink, but like not spectacular whiskey. And then sometimes when you finish it in something cool, it takes on that flavor really, really well. This is kind of like that. So what you have here is a lot of like bourbon barrel influence, but all of it is milder than you would expect. So like I could taste the vanilla, I could taste the oak, I could taste a little bit of caramel, and none of them are the highlight. I don't really taste any of that green apple, although I'll have another sip in a moment. And everything is just easy to drink, but nothing that I would be like, wow, that's amazing. And that's kind of what this is. So let's have another sip and see if maybe I change my mind. No. So almost think of like Tullamore Dew. I don't want to compare this to Jameson because Jameson has a very definitive flavor. Tullamore Dew to me does not. It tastes like a basic Irish whiskey. And I feel like this is in that same vein, which makes sense because it's about the same price. I think this might be a little bit more expensive than Tullamore Dew, but that's fine. Tullamore makes just an insane amount of like whiskey, so they can have slightly smaller prices. Anyway, the only other thing I picked up on that last sip was maybe some honey, and that's about it. Now, in no way am I saying that this is not a good whiskey, and I think I've made that kind of clear. I kind of just want to give my overall here. So when I drink this whiskey, I actually like this, and I look forward to drinking it. Now, I haven't drank a ton of this, and I will say, like, it's just not one that I necessarily reach to all the time, because as I mentioned, I'm kind of spoiled for choice here. But just thinking about what I would use this for, I'm actually going to a St. Patrick's Day party in a week, and I'm gonna bring this bottle with me because why not? You know, people expect me to bring whiskey. It's I don't know if you know this about me, but like I kind of drink some whiskey sometimes, and they kind of expect that of me. So I usually bring some bottles of whiskey, and this one will probably come with me, and I'll just be like, just put it in whatever you're drinking, or mix it with some ice and, you know, rehydrate with your ice cubes. So that's probably what I would use this one for. It drinks fine, neat. I think this would actually go great in a mule, but other than that, it's fine. I would give this a buy it just based off the price and the ease of sipping, but you know, you are the only person that would know whether something like this would appeal to you. But to me personally, I think it deserves a buy it. It's a great price, it's a fine product, and there's really nothing wrong or amazing about it. So I'd still say it's a buy it. All right, thank you everybody for joining me here on this first review of Irish Whiskey Month. Next week we're going to be back with Bushmill's Prohibition recipe. So I'll see you then. Cheers.